Shabbat Shalom. We are back. Continuing on with our look at the triennial Torah portion. We are continuing in the book of Deuteronomy. This week we are going to be looking at Deuteronomy 10 and 11. Deuteronomy 10 and 11. And our title for today's portion is Carve for Yourself. Carve for yourself. We'll see how these two chapters relate to one another. As we go through, I'm going to pull up. We'll read through chapter 10, and then we'll from there. I think we'll just go through some slides. Let me go ahead and pull up. The chapter so we can read through it.
Said to me, hoe for yourselves, hew for yourselves 2 tablets of stone like the first, and come up to me on the mountain, and you shall make yourself an ark of wood. Then I write on the tablets the words that were on the first tablets, which you broke, and you shall put them in the ark. So I made an ark of acacia wood, hewed 2 tablets of stone like the first, and went up the mountain with the 2 tablets in my hand. And he wrote on the tablets according to the first writing the 10 words which Yahweh had spoken to you in the mountain from the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. Then Yahweh gave them to me, and I turned and came down from the mountain and put the tablets in the ark which I had made, and they are there as Yahweh commanded me. Now the children of Israel set out from the wells of Bnei Yachan to Moserah. Aaron died there, and he was buried there. And Eleazar his son became priest in his place. From there they set out to Gudgoda, and from Gudgoda to Yotbatha, and a land of rivers of water. At that time Yahweh separated the tribe of Levi to bear the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, to stand before Yahweh, serve him, and to bless in his name to this day. Therefore Levi has no portion nor inheritance with his brothers. Yahweh is his inheritance, as Yahweh your Elohim promised him. And I stayed in the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. And Yahweh heard me at that time also. And Yahweh chose not to destroy you. And Yahweh said to me, Arise, go before the people, to set out, and let them go in and possess the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. And now, Israel, what is Yahweh your Elohim asking of you, but to fear Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being, to guard the commandments of Yahweh and his laws, which I command you today for your good. See, the heavens and the heaven of heavens belong to Yahweh your Elohim. Also the earth with all that is in it. Yahweh delighted only in your fathers to love them, and he chose their seed after them, you above all peoples, as it is today. And you shall circumcise the foreskin of your heart, and harden your neck there no more. For Yahweh your Elohim is Elohim of mighty ones, and master of masters, the great El, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality nor takes a bribe. He executes right ruling for the fatherless and the widow, and loves the stranger, giving him food and a garment. And you shall love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Mitzrayim. Fear Yahweh your Elohim, serve him, and cling to him, and swear by his name. He is your praise, and he is your Elohim, who has done for you these great and awesome deeds, which your eyes have seen. Your father went down to Mitzrayim with 70 beings, and now Yahweh Elohim has made you as numerous as the stars of the heavens.
Okay, very good. You know what, matter of fact, let's just go through 11 as well. We're going to kind of go through both of these with the slides. Go ahead and start reading. There's not that many verses, I don't believe.
All of it?
Yes.
Okay. It says, you shall love Yahweh your Elohim and guard his charge, even his laws and his right rulings and his commands always. And you shall know today, for it is not your children who have not known and who have not seen the discipline of Yahweh your Elohim, his greatness, his strong hand, and his outstretched arm, and his signs and his works, which he had done in all the midst of Mitzrayim, to Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitzrayim, and to all his land. And that which he had done to the army of Mitzrayim, to their horses and their chariots, when he made the waters of the sea of reeds overflow them as they pursued you, and how Yahweh had destroyed them to this day. And what he had done for you in the wilderness till you came to this place, and what he had done to Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, son of Reuben, when the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, and their households and their tents, and all the living creatures that were in their possession, in the midst of all Israel. For yours are the eyes that saw all the great work of Yahweh which he did. And you shall guard every command which I command you today, so that you are strong, and shall go in and shall possess the land which you are passing over to possess, and to prolong your days in the land which Yahweh swore to give your fathers, to them and their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land which you are going in to possess is not like the land of Mitzrayim, from which you have come, where you sowed your seed and watered it by foot, as a vegetable garden. But the land which you are passing over to possess is a land of hills and valleys, which drinks water from the rain of the heavens. A land which Yahweh Elohim looks after. The eyes of Yahweh Elohim are always on it, from the beginning of the year to the latter end of the year. And it shall be that if you diligently obey my commands, which I command you today, to love Yahweh your Elohim, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your being, then I shall give you the rain for your land in its season, the early rain and the latter rain. And you shall gather your grain, and your new wine and your oil. And I shall give grass in your fields for your livestock, and shall eat and be satisfied. Guard yourselves, lest your heart be deceived, and you turn aside and serve other mighty ones, and bow down to them. Then the displeasure of Yahweh shall burn against you, and he shall shut up the heavens, and there be no rain, and the land not give its increase, and you shall perish quickly from the good land which Yahweh is giving you. And you shall lay up these words of mine in your heart and in your being, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall teach them to your children, speaking of them when you sit in when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates, so that your days and the days of your children are increased on the soil of which Yahweh swore to your fathers to give them, as the days of the heavens on the earth. For if you diligently guard all these commands, which I command you to do it, to love Yahweh Elohim, to walk in all his ways, and to cling to him, then Yahweh shall drive out all these nations before you, and you shall dispossess greater and stronger nations than you. Every place on which the sole of your foot treads is yours, from the wilderness and Lebanon, from the river of Euphrates, even to the western sea is your border. No man shall stand against you. Yahweh your Elohim shall put the dread of you and the fear of you upon all the land where you tread, as he has spoken to you.
Stop at 20. Did you read 28? Stop at 28.
Okay. See, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing when you obey the commands of Yahweh your Elohim, which I command you today. And the curse, if you do not obey the commands of Yahweh your Elohim, but turn aside from the way which I command you today, to go after other mighty ones which you have not known.
Okay, very good. All right, so let's go back. Let's go all the way back. Let's go all the way back and look at to the beginning. All right, back to verse 1 over here. Let's read verse 1 for us again.
It says,
Oh, hold on. Forgot you don't have this on the screen over there.
It says, at that time Yahweh said to me, hew for yourselves 2 tablets of stone like the first, and come up to me on the mountain, and you shall make yourself an ark of wood.
Okay, very good. So we talked about this some back in chapter 5, because when we look at back in chapter 5 where it talks about making graven images, we see over here that this is saying over here to hew for yourself 2 tablets, or to carve. To carve, whether wood or stone, to grave or to hew, right? This word over here that's translated as hew or carve or graven is the same thing where it talks about over in the commandments. So this is just further proof that the second commandment is more than carving a graven image, because the Most High says over to Moses to hew, to carve for yourself 2 tablets of stone. Right? Here, read 5, 8, and 9.
5, 8, and 9. It says, you do not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of which is in the heavens above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. You do not bow down to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am a jealous El, visiting the crookedness of the fathers upon the children to the 3rd and 4th generations of those who hate me.
Okay, very good. This over here, this carved image, this helps us to see that this commandment is not two commands saying don't carve an image and then don't worship, don't bow down to these things and serve them. This is all one thought, one idea. You're not to carve images that have these certain likenesses and then worship them. Right? That's the command. Because again, we look back over and where we are here, the Most High tells Moses to tell the people, carve for yourself 2 tables of stone. Right? These are the 10 commandments that needed to be replaced because of the fact that Moses broke the first set because of what had happened. But we want to just look over at thinking about this, and then also moving forward, thinking about what this means over here. Here, read for us here again. Let's see, 11 through 13.
11 through 13, it says, "And Yahweh said to me, Arise, go before the people, to set out and let them go in and possess the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. And now, Israel, what is Yahweh your Elohim asking of you, but to fear Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and all your being, to guard the commands of Yahweh and his laws which I command you today for your good."
All right. So we see over here that with what the Most High is through Moses is saying to the people over here is that there are these things that he is requiring of the people, right? There are these things that he's requiring, that he's asking of you, right? What is Yahweh your Elohim asking of you? Okay, this word here, asking of you, that's translated as asking of you in the scriptures version. Some versions say require, is demand, right? Demand or ask or beg or borrow, consult or demand, right? We think about what it would be that the Most High is demanding of us. What is he desiring of us, right? What charge is he laying to us? Okay, so anything that the Most High will be asking of us would definitely be something that we would want to, have place great importance on, right? He says right here, the thing that he's asking is to fear, to walk, to love, to serve, and to guard. Right? So we want to look at these things as kind of a review, right? Because we just talked about some of these things when we think about it. But we want to pay attention to when you kind of deal with one of these things, they overlap. They overlap with one another, right? If I'm fearing, I'm probably walking, right? If I'm walking, right, I'm probably loving the Most High, right? If I'm loving him, I'm serving him, right? And in order to serve him, I'll need to guard, right? So again, when we begin to do or don't do these things, one carries over into the other things, right? So fear, right? We talked about fear to fear, to be afraid, to dread, right? To have a perfect understanding of who the Most High is and understanding what He's capable of doing and what He's requiring of us, right? When we have that fear of the Most High, it's going to cause for us to live our lives in a particular way, right? It's going to cause us to act accordingly when we fear Him. Psalms 86 and 11. I have to have this up here for you since you can't see it up there. Psalms 86 and 11. Read that.
6 and 11 says, "Teach me your way, O Yahweh. Let me walk in your truth. Unite my heart to fear your name."
Okay, right. So when we look over here at what's happening over here, when the psalmist is saying to teach me your ways, O Yahweh, he's desiring to walk in your truth. And one of the things that's happening as a result of this teaching and this walking in the way is an untying, an unbinding, a loosening of the heart to fear your name, right? We need for our hearts to be unraveled, right? Because our heart gets bound up from all of the things that we involve ourselves in, all of the different desires and things that drive us, that puts our heart, our internal mind, in motion. And we want to move away from those things and move towards those things which are pleasing towards the Most High. Right? So we see the psalmist over here. These things are, again, intertwined with one another. When I'm learning His ways, I'm walking in His truth, right? And my heart is being turned over to the Most High, and I'm learning how to fear Him, right? So these things that Moses is bringing out in terms of, these 5 things here that he is requiring of the people. When you think about it, it's really just one thing, right? Different aspects of the one thing, all helping us to draw closer to the Most High. Let's see here. We look at Luke. Look at Luke chapter 1 and read 46 through 55. 46 through 55. This is a song of Miriam, the mother of Yeshua. Go ahead, start reading there.
It says, "And Miriam said, my being makes Yahweh great, and my spirit has rejoiced in Elohim, my Savior, because he looked on the humiliation of his female servant. For look, from now on all generations shall call me blessed. For he who is mighty and has done wonders for me, and set apart is his name. And his compassion is from generation to generation to those who fear me. Him. He did mightily in his with his arm. He scattered the proud in the thought of their hearts. 55.
Oh yeah.
Okay, it says, he brought down rulers from their thrones and exalted the lowly. He has filled the hungry with good items, and the rich he has sent away empty. He sustained Israel, his servant, in remembrance of his compassion, as he spoke to our fathers, to Abraham, and to his seed forever.
Okay, very good. So we see over here that the Most High has compassion for the generations, from generation to those who fear Him. When we deal with the Most High in the way that He will have for us to be dealing with Him, when we have a proper understanding of who He is, He deals with us with compassion, right? And then He begins the as we look at this psalm here, this psalm of praise, when we think about what comes with the compassion of the Most High, right? He begins to fight our battles, right? He begins to move things in our favor, right? He begins to reverse, the separations and things that were previously in our lives, right? Look at what it says here. He said he did mightily with his arm. He scattered the proud in the thought of their hearts, right? So again, we look at the idea of fearing the Most High and putting that against, pride and being proud of, our own things that we're able to do and accomplish. This is saying that He scatters those that are prideful, right? Because of the things that's going on in their hearts, right? And so, we're talking about what it is that's transforming or changing our hearts, right? Walking in His ways and doing the things that He will have for us to be doing. Here, let me go over here to this next one here. Romans 3. Look at verse 11. Start reading at verse 11 right here.
It says, there is no one who is understanding. There is none who is seeking Elohim. They all have turned aside. They have together become worthless. There is none who does good. No, not one. Their throat is an open tomb. With their tongues they have deceived. The poison of adders is under their lips. Whose is that it?
Keep on.
Whose mouth is filled with cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Ruin and wretchedness are in their ways, and the way of peace they have not known. There is no fear of Elohim before their eyes.
Okay, we talking about the condition that we are in outside of the fear of the Most High, right? We need for a change, a transformation to happen. We need to be shown what to do because on our own we don't know what to do, right? They all have turned aside. They have together become worthless, right? Outside of the will of the Most High and that which He would have for us to be doing. Okay. all the way down to the last verse over here where it talks about there is no fear of Elohim before their eyes, the wretched ones, right? The wicked ones, the cursed ones, those that are outside of his will. And so we're able to see that when we're on the outside, when we don't have the fear of the Most High, the things that kind of correspond with that is being in a life of separation where our existence is in iniquity, right, and worthlessness, right. Their throat, those ones who don't exhibit the fear of the Most High, their throat is as an open tomb. With their tongues they have deceived, right. They're compared to, these ones are compared to adders, or spiders, not spiders, but snakes.
Snakes.
One of those S things that are terrible, right? All right, so look at Sirach there, 2:15 through 17.
It says, "They that fear Yahweh will not disobey his word, and they that love him will keep his ways. They that fear Yahweh will seek that which is well, pleasing unto him, and they that love him shall be filled with the law. They that fear Yahweh will prepare their hearts and humble their souls in his sight."
Okay, so we see how all of these things again correspond with one another, right? And so, he could have, instead of saying these 5 things that he requires of the people, he could have said, I desire for the people to have a genuine relationship with me. Right? And this genuine relationship looks away, right? Involves the fear of Yahweh. It involves guarding the commandments. It involves serving the Most High. It involves putting the laws of the Most High in your hearts, right? It involves loving the Most High. Right over here, this says, they that fear Yahweh will not disobey his word, right? So if they're not disobeying, they're keeping his word, right? And they that love him will keep his ways. But that's the same thing. Keeping his ways and not disobeying his words is the same thing, right? These things all are connected with each other, right? And so we're kind of, when we think about the ways in which our lives should be looking when we are following after the Most High, it's involving all of these things, right? Fearing the Most High and walking in all his ways, right? Not just walking in some of his ways or walking in the things that you would, that you think that you should be walking in, but the things that are pertaining unto you, those things you need to be doing, right? Again, we think about walking in all his ways. It don't mean doing all of his commandments, right? Because all of his commandments don't even apply to you, right? But the things that do apply to you, you're supposed to be walking in all of those ways, right? Walking or exercising, right? Or following, right? Or moving forward in. Okay? Halak. Let's see here. The root, right? This word halak is akin to, it's a primitive root, halak, but it says that it's akin to this word, which is yalak, right? It's not derivative of yalak, but it is akin to, right? So it's likened unto halak and yalak, okay, which is also means to walk, right? To bring or to carry, to march, to pursue, to cause to run. Okay? And so, when we think about these words, halak, which actually, if we looked at it from the ancient here, we see the hay, which is the man with his arms raised, right? Which has the idea of breath. It has the idea of proclamation, or if you would be like in those olden times, we might say hey, but they'd be like lo, right? Behold. And then this lamed is the lamed is the shepherd's staff that's used for leading, and it's used for teaching. It's used for correction, right? It's used for protection. And then the kaf is kuf is the palm, the open palm, right, where the palm allows things, or it holds things, right? And so we have the allowance, right? That's led, the allowances that are led by breath. Your breath is an internal thing, right? It's what's inside of you. Your breath is what gives you your life, right? So if we talk about the allowances that are led by your breath, we could think about man from a perspective of the things that lead him, the things that that guide him, right? The things that influence his daily activities, right? If we look at this other word, yalach, it's the same with a yod. But we think about the yod, the arm and the hand that comes down, right? The arm and the hand that comes down. We're sure to, when we think about the origination point of the yod, right, is coming from above, right? So this hand that's coming, and it's now leading the allowances from on high, right? And so when we think about the way that our walk should be and the motivations of it, our walk should be motivated from the one who is on high, right? And so when we think about the idea of walking in the ways of the Most High, right, we're thinking about Him as being the one who leads us and guides us and protects us and governs our lives and our decision making, right? And so when we think about the idea of walking in His ways, this is a continual lifestyle for us, right? This is something that we continue to do. Again, if we're continually fearing the Most High, then we're continually walking in His ways, right? If we're continually fearing the Most High, we're continually walking in a way that is motivated by the unctioning or the leading or the guiding of the Most High. And again, this is what Moses is saying that he is requiring of us. And we began all of this with him talking about the writing of the commandments on these tablets of stone, right? Putting these commandments in stone so that they can be known and kept by the people, right? Psalms 119.
Says, blessed are the undefiled in the way, who walk in the law of Yahweh. Blessed are they that keep his testimonies and that seek him with the whole heart. They also do not or do no iniquity. They walk in his ways. Thou hast commanded us to keep thy precepts diligently. Oh, that my ways were directed to keep thy statutes. Then shall I not be ashamed when I have respect unto all thy commandments. I will praise thee with uprightness of heart when I shall have learned thy righteousness, thy righteous judgments. I will keep thy statutes. Forsake me not utterly.
Okay, so again, we see all of the components, nearly all the components over here, right? The idea of the blessings that come. Blessed are the undefiled that are in the way, who walk in the law of Yahweh.
Mm.
Those same ones keep his testimonies, which is his law, which is his commands.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They seek him with their whole heart. They're causing for their whole beings to be directed towards the Most High. Right? They do no iniquity. Right? They walk in his ways. We're talking about walking right now. And again, this is not dealing with the idea of merely putting one foot in front of the other, physically walking. Right? This is about a lifestyle. This is about the things that we do that defines who we are, right? Our walk. Thou hast commanded us to keep, to guard, to secure the precepts, the commands diligently. Okay, so again, we look at all these things. If we were to look at this, these 8 verses here. Again, these really have all the components of these things that the Most High said that Moses said that the Most High is requiring of his people, right? To fear him, to walk in his ways, to love him, right? To love him, to have that to have an affection for the Most High. And so again, we talked about this before. When we talk about the love, true love is, how we deal with one another. I can't say that I love you if I'm not treating you in a loving way, right? Because that's not love, right? When we think about the love that the Most High has for his people, he loves us in action, right? When we look up this word here in the 1828 Webster's Dictionary over here, affection, this word affection is the state of being affected, right? So when we talk about a state of being, this is something that is exemplary of what or who you are, right? So it's not something that is a response to something. It's what you are. Like if I sit up here and somebody does something nice for me, and then I have a nice response to the thing that they did for me, right? We're not talking about that because that's kind of cause and effect. But we're talking about a state of being, right? How I am based on the way that I have decided to deal with you, right? And when we think about our love for the Most High, right? We love the Most High by doing that which is pleasing in his sight. Okay. All right. Let's look at. We can think about the scriptures that are in, John and First John, where it talks about, if you love me, right? If you love me, keep my commandments. If you love me, you'll do the things that are pleasing to the Most High, right? You able to show your love by the things that you do, right? And so when we think about the love that we have for the Most High and how we exhibit it, we exhibit His love by doing the things that He likes. Oh, and by the way, the things that He likes are not selfish towards Him. Right? The things that He likes actually looks like us doing things for one another. Right? So we say that we love the Most High by walking in a way that exemplifies love for one another. Right? We're just kind of outside of the Most High. Right? We are able to show the Most High that we love Him by being a certain way to His people. Right? It's not like we're just talking about the idea of doing things that are specific to or towards the Most High. Like, yes, He desires. He's not talking about necessarily, we think about the idea of worship towards the Most High, which He also desires that. But there's so many things that are incorporated in His law, statutes, and commandments, which are not directly, pointed toward Him. Right? It has to do with the way that we deal with one another. And so, again, when we think about this idea of loving the Most High, right? It only has to do with the way in which we behave and do things, right? Look at Sirach 10 and 19.
They that fear Yahweh are a sure seed, and they that love Him an honorable plant. They that regard not the law are a dishonorable seed. They that transgress the commandments are a deceivable seed.
Okay, very good. So again, you see these two things here being connected to each other: fear of Yahweh, and they that love Him. Right? You have the seed. It's interesting that you have the seed, and the seed is the thing that precedes the plant. Right? You plant the seed, and the plant grows. It's interesting that we have the fear of Yahweh being a sure seed, and those that love Him an honorable plant. It's interesting that we have this idea. I don't know if the writer was trying to express to us that the fear of Yahweh is like the seed, and the love of Him is like the plant that grows out of the seed. But the way that he kind of poetically gave it to us was comparing the fear to a seed and the love to a plant. And we know a plant comes from that. And then we think about, adversely, when we think about not regarding His law, is this dishonorable seed, right? This dishonorable thing that's planted with they that transgress the commandments are this deceivable seed. So we see that the Most High, again, desiring for us to have these different ways in which He's having for us to be including the fear, including of him, including walking in his ways, and including loving him, right? All right. So also, he's having for us to serve Yahweh with all our hearts, right? He wanted for us to walk in all of his ways, and he wants for us to serve him with all our heart and soul, right? This abad word, this word that means to serve, to till, to enslave, to keep in bondage, to be bondmen, bond service, compel, to dress, to execute, right? All of these different things that we think about when we think about the idea of abad, to serve Yahweh. We always have to think about the fact that when we, when we look back at Israel coming out of Egypt, we go from being a slave to Pharaoh. We're still slaves, right? But we're not slaves to Pharaoh. We're slaves to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? We went from being owned by Pharaoh to being owned by the Most High, right? And so our life is a life of servitude towards the purposes of the Most High. When he's saying for us to serve Yahweh with all of our hearts and with all of our souls, our soul motivation in life, the thing that propels us forward, needs to be service unto the Most High. Right? We look in the New Testament where it talks about, just paraphrasing, talking about the service of the work that we do. You don't do it unto the people who you're working for. You do it unto the Most High. And so when you sit up here and you have these things that you have to do when you go out and live this plantation life that some of us do, we're not serving these earthly masters, right? We're serving the Most High. We're not just, some people, they just go and they just, they throw stuff together. They do stuff in kind of a way, just going through the motions. But everything that we do unto the Most High. And so these kids, when they're doing their little schoolwork, they think that they're doing it for the little grade that they get or the little whatever accomplishment comes with doing the little schoolwork or whatever. That's a way to think about it. But if you thought about it in a way where you're doing your schoolwork unto the Most High, right, it causes you to do things a little better, right? If you doing this thing, whatever you're doing, just because mommy or daddy said for you to do it, or are you doing this thing as if it's a service unto the Most High, right? And so when we live our lives, when we do the things that we do, we have to, if we're serving Yahweh with all of our heart and soul, this is including everything that we're doing, right? When we're creating, when we're making things, we're not simply making these things for our own pleasure. We're making them as unto the Almighty, right? That's how we serve Yahweh with all of our heart and soul, right? Because we're causing for everything that we do to be something that's dedicated unto the Most High, right? Because, we are in service to Him, right? We need to be able in this day and age, where, Yeshua calls for us to be lights into the world, right? To figure out how it is that we can actually serve the kingdom of the Most High, right? Because His kingdom is coming, and His will is going to be done on earth as it is in heaven,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we have to, figure out in our lives if we are in fact serving him with all of our heart and soul, figure out how we are going to be affecting this kingdom, right? Because at the end of the day, we are servants of the Most High,
Mm-hmm.
right? We all have a part to play. And again, this is something that the Most High is requiring of us, right? To serve him with all of our heart and soul. Mm-hmm. Oh, we have some comments over here. I can't pull that up. That John, put that in the text. That verse let's see here. Isaiah 49:3, and he said unto me, "Thou art my servant, O Israel, in whom I will be glorified." Very good. Yes, and think about the idea of glorifying, lifting up the Most High. We think about glorifying, bringing light to. We bring light as Israel. We bring light to the Most High when we, do his service, right? He said, "Thou art my servant, O Israel, in whom," Israel being in whom, "I will be glorified," right? Or light will be brought to me, right? You'll see the light of the Most High through the servants of the Most High, who is Israel, right? And so this is our purpose, our duty, right, in life as Israel, to be his servants, right? All right, very good. Okay, let's keep on going over here. This is just more definition of abad, which is service, right? This labor may be focused on things or people or Elohim, right? But we talked about the fact that our service, all of our service, needs to be towards the Most High, primarily. And while we're servicing things or people, right? So the Most High is always going to be included in the service that we would be doing to and for others, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Yahweh told Moshe, and Moshe told Pharaoh that we are leaving Egypt to serve Yah. So if we look at the kind of the first interactions that Moses had with the Most High, we talk about the burning bush.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about the interactions that Moses had with Pharaoh various times. I put the verses up here. You can look at them at your leisure. Exodus 3:12, 4:23, 7:16, 8:1, 8:20, 9:1, 9:13, 10:3, and there's various others where the Most High's message to Pharaoh was, "Let my people go so that they can serve me."
Mm-hmm.
Right? Our purpose is to serve the Most High. We came out of bondage. We came out of bondage so that we can serve the Almighty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Our purpose is service to the Most High. Okay? What's this here? Verse.
It's not even the full verse. It won't let me put in the whole thing.
Let's see. But whoever has the world's goods and sees his brother in need and shuts up his tender affections for him, how does the love of Elohim stay in him? Right. So when we think about the idea of the love of the Most High, again, if we're loving the Most High and we're blocking the manifestation of our love towards others, we're not loving the Most High with all of our hearts. Right. We're not manifesting the character of the Most High. My little children, let us not love in word or in tongue, but in deed and in truth. Yes. So again, all of these things are a manifestation of the character of the Most High in us, right? Fearing the Most High. Fearing the Most High looks away, right? It deals with us walking in the Most High's ways. It deals with us walking in the commands of the Most High. It deals with us serving the Most High, right? And serving His people, right? As a service to the Most High. Okay. All right. Very good. So let's look at the next one. Romans 12:1. What's that say?
It says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Elohim, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto Elohim, which is your reasonable service.
Your reasonable service, your reasonable worship, your reasonable service towards the Almighty Yah is to present your body as a living sacrifice. When you think about a living sacrifice, we're talking about the thing that is offered up unto the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
Our bodies, our being is a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto the Most High. This dedicated, consecrated thing that is dedicated unto the Most High. This is our reasonable service unto the Most High, is complete dedication to His will and His ways, which includes loving our neighbor, walking in His ways, fearing the fear of the Most High. Right? All these things, again, are intertwined with each other. Right? And keeping His commandments, guarding His commandments. Right? When we think about the idea of having a hedge of thorns about His commandments. Right? We're figuring out ways how we can keep from breaking His commandments. So it's not only about you keeping His law, statutes, and commands, but if we're guarding them, if we're putting a hedge about them, we're figuring out ways that enables us to not break His commandments. We're figuring out ways that helps us to be able to keep His commandments. Right? If I know that I, for instance, am, keeping the Shabbat, if I know that the Shabbat is coming, then that means that I'm going to do things, make preparations ahead of time to make sure that I don't break His laws and statutes and commands. Right? There's going to be things that I'm going to be doing in advance to make sure that I'm able to do it. Right? This is the idea of hedging about, as with thorns. I'm making preparations. I'm guarding. I'm to be circumspect. Right? About His commands and His statutes. Right? I'm taking all preliminary actions ahead of time so that I know that I'm able to walk and keep the commandments and statutes of the Most High. Right? You know, a lot of times people talk about, these exceptions to things and, oxes in these proverbial ditches. And, when we think about the idea of hedging about, guarding, being circumspect, bewaring, preserving, this is about taking precautions that causes us to be able to prevent these unforeseeable things from happening. Right? When we get in a car, you put a seatbelt on. In the event that you crash, that you don't, you're not hurt too badly. You're not thrown through the windshield. Mm-hmm. Right? You take these precautions so that, some people walk around with firearms on them in the event that if some bad guys come around, that they have some type of protection against something that might potentially happen. Right? Mm-hmm. We have all of these things that we do as precautions, as these things that we do in the event that this or that may happen. But what do we do as a precaution in the event that something might come along to potentially cause you to not be keeping the law, statutes, commands of the Most High? Mm-hmm. Right? So it's not just about doing. Right? Do his commandments is another word. That's a whole other word, to do his commandments and his statutes. That's another word. This word here is to keep. This word here is translated as to keep, but it's to shamar, is to hedge about. Right? So it's not necessarily the doing of the commands. It's about what are you doing to ensure that you do it, or to ensure that you don't do the things that you're not supposed to be doing. Right? We have to think about these things. And again, this is part of these requirements that the Most High is having for us to be doing. He already said to do it before when he said to walk. Let it be your lifestyle. Right? You're already doing it when you're loving the Most High with all of your heart and soul. Right? You're already doing when you're fearing. But over here, this is something else where he's talking about the keeping, the shamaring, which is putting that hedge about it. Is that thorns around about it, protecting your ability to be able to keep the commandments and the statutes. Yes. Prevention is better than a cure. I'd rather go take steps to try to figure out how I could stop something from happening. I'd rather do that than after something happens, try to figure out how I'm going to get out of this mess that I created for myself. And so, this is one of the things that the Most High is requiring of his people to be doing. Again, shamar is not to do, right? This is not to do his commandments, because that's already been covered in another area. This over here is to shamar it, to keep it, to guard it, to put a hedge around it, to prevent you from doing the things that may potentially lead you in a direction of breaking. Right? And so we have to think about all of these things, because these are the things that the Most High is calling for us to be doing. These are the things that is required of us. What do you require of us? These are the things, right? Proverbs 6:20 and 22. What does that say?
It says, "My son, keep thy father's commandments, and forsake not the law of thy mother. Bind them continually upon thine heart, and tie them about thy neck. When thou goest, it shall lead thee. When thou sleep, it shall take thee. Or, it shall keep thee. And when thou awake, it shall talk with thee."
Okay, very good. This is a perfect example. We see over here the word keep. Again, it's different than do. My son, keep thy father's commands and forsake not the law of thy mother. And then, so how I'm supposed to do that? Bind them continually upon thine heart. Bind them on your heart. Tie them about your neck. Put them in a place where whenever you feel the desire to turn, when you feel the desire to turn to the left or the right, you got this thing on your neck that's causing you not to be able to forget. Oh, wait a second. I got this thing tied about my neck. What is it? Oh, I need to be following after the Most High. Maybe this is talk about having a beard on your face that's tied about your neck. When my beard is tied about my neck, when I go to turn to the left or to the right, I'm stopped by this big old thing that. Why do I even have this thing? Oh yeah, the Most High said for me not to cut the corners of my beard. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to be following after His law, statutes, and commands. Oh wow. I don't know if he's talking about a beard right there. But the idea here is to do these things, doing these things here proactively, right? Making provisions ahead of time before it becomes necessary to fix any problems, right? And this is exactly what we see over here in this Proverbs over here. Bind them continually upon your heart. Tie them about your neck. And when you go, these things will lead you. When you sleep, these things will keep you. When you're awake, it will talk to you, right? Because you've set about these reminders and these things and these provisions and these ways that will cause you to remember what it is that the Most High has for you to be doing. You know, that was the purpose. That was the purpose of the tzitzit. Mm-hmm. Right? That was the purpose of the tassels. Right? When you see the tassels, it will remind you to keep the commandments. Right? That's a way to guard the commandments. That's a way to put a hedge about that which is pleasing to the Most High. Okay, look at Deuteronomy 14 through 16.
It says, "See, the heavens and the heaven of heavens belong to Yahweh Elohim, also the earth with all that is in it. Delighted only in your fathers to love them. And he chose their seed after them, as you above all peoples, as it is today. And you shall circumcise the foreskin of your heart, and harden your neck no more."
Okay, very good. So, we began the chapter talking about the idea of carving these commandments into these tablets of stone and putting these tablets of stone into this wooden box, right? Which we know the wooden box was then later covered with gold, and then the pure gold lid was placed upon it, and we call that the Ark of the Covenant. Mm-hmm. right? But now we see that we're talking about this other thing now, that you shall circumcise the foreskin of your heart. Which, if we were to think about this, is something that you would be doing kind of in the vein of keeping the commands and in regards to guarding the Most High's commands, right? Circumcising the foreskin of your heart. Let's look at this word mul. To circumcise, to cut short, that is curtail. Circumcise, to cut down, to destroy. And so when we think about this word to circumcise, we think about this idea of cutting. When we think about a literal circumcision, I'll never forget my poor little baby Joseph. I've never experienced anything like this in my whole life. My little 8-day-old Joseph getting circumcised, and I swear this child passed out 2 times while this lady was sitting there doing this thing to my baby, right, as he was being. I swear he passed out. He was crying like crazy, and then he just was out. And then he came back. He came back. He woke up, and then it happened 2 times. That happened, right? This cutting of his flesh, this removal of this, of the foreskin of his flesh. And so when we talk about the idea of the removal of the foreskin of your heart, right? There's a cutting, right? There's parts of your heart that need to be cut off and removed, right? It's not just putting a hole in it, right? There's things that need to be taken off and removed and thrown away, right? And so we think about the idea of circumcision of the heart. We already talked about the heart before, how the heart is wicked. The heart is this wicked thing. It needs to be transformed. It needs to be changed, right? There's no rightness in you. Rightness has to be put in you. And so part of rightness being put in you is this circumcision of the heart. Okay? And so, when we think about the idea of circumcising your heart, Israel wasn't given a command that they could not keep. Right? They wasn't given a command that they could not keep. So how could they have fulfilled this? Right? This circumcision of their heart. Because, they wasn't talking about taking knives and doing open heart surgery on each other. That's not what they was talking about. Well, when we look back at what we've been looking at so far to this point in terms of fearing the Most High, in terms of walking in His ways, in terms of loving the Almighty, in terms of serving Him, in terms of keeping His commands. All of these things are things that we might do to circumcise our hearts. Right? We always think about the idea of circumcision of the heart being the spiritual thing, which we can look at it in that way, but we have to first think about the way in which Moses was talking about when he was looking back at and speaking to Israel back in Deuteronomy chapter 10. What he's not doing is telling them to sit there and cut each other and cut things off of their hearts. And he's not necessarily talking about some spiritual application either. What he's talking about is removing from their lives, from their character, from the things that they use to define themselves, removing those things and replacing them with the things that are pleasing to the Most High, which would be the commands of the Most High. Right?
Yeah.
Moses is not giving the people a command that they're not able to keep. He's not saying for them to circumcise your hearts in a way that the prophets are going to speak about 1,000 years from now. He's not saying that to them. He's saying for them to right then and there's something that you need to be doing within your own current selves so that the Most High can be pleased with you. Circumcise your heart. Right? And so again, that includes guarding the laws, statutes, and commands. That includes causing for your life to be a living example of the Most High, walking in His ways, right? Being about the service of the Most High, right? So when he talks about this idea of circumcising your heart, it's only enhancing what he's already been talking about in terms of this thing that is required of you. And so by manifesting the character of the Almighty, this is how we circumcise our heart. This is how we remove the foul things that are within us, the motivators, the appetites that exist inside of us. How we replace those things with rightness. Okay, what does scripture is this here? Psalms 51:17. The sacrifice of Elohim are a broken spirit and a broken and contrite heart. O Elohim, thou wilt not despise. Yes. So again, when we think about the idea of, circumcision, it's this thing that cuts. It's this thing that hurts. It's a removal of the normal things that are inside of us. Pride is inside of us. Our cold, wicked, dead heart is inside of us. This thing that continually wants for us to rise up. And to be boastful and to pride. We have to get to the place where we're bringing ourselves low, right? And when we do this, right, these are ways that we circumcise our heart, right? These are ways that we're able to manifest the character of the Most High. Okay, read for us 17 and 18.
Says, for Yahweh your Elohim is El of Elohim, and Elohim of Elohims, a great Elohim, a mighty and a terrible, which regards not persons, nor taketh reward. He doth execute the judgment of the fatherless and widow, and loves the stranger, in giving him food and raiment.
Okay, so this is always been one of my favorite verses in regards to understanding the simple truth that the Torah is the character of the Most High humanized. We look over here and we see where, the Most High is, in fact, your Elohim, right? He is the El of all Elohim, right? If there's any Elohim, he's the Elohim of them, right? If there's any lords, he's the Lord of them, right? He's a great Elohim. He's mighty and he's terrible. And he's not a respecter of persons. And he ain't taking no bribes. Right? But it says he doth execute, the Most High does, he executes judgment of the fatherless and the widow. And he loves the stranger. And he gives him food and raiment. But how's he do it? He does it through you. He does it through you keeping his commandments. It says he doth. When he's talking about he, the he in the context there is Yahweh. He executes judgment. But how's he do it? Through you keeping his law, statutes, and commands. He's the one that loves the stranger. He's the one that gives them food and clothes. But how's he do it? Through you giving people, the stranger, food and clothes. When Yeshua talked about over in the so-called New Testament over there, he talked about whenever you seen the person in jail and then you didn't visit them, and you seen the person who needed food and you didn't feed them, or you seen the person that needed this or that, who needed clothes and you didn't clothe them, you didn't clothe me, he said. You didn't visit me, he said. Right? So all these times whenever the Most High is helping and manifesting himself to those that need his manifestation, he's doing that through his people. Right? Who have already circumcised their hearts, right? Who have already removed their personal wants and desires and replaced those things with the wants and desires of the Most High. And so when we think about the idea of manifesting the goodness of the Most High, he does that through us, his people. Here, read this next one here. Jeremiah 4:1-4.
It says, "If thou wilt return, O Israel, saith Yahweh, return unto me. And if thou wilt if thou wilt put away thine abominations out of my sight, then shalt thou not remove. And thou shalt swear, Yahweh liveth, in truth, in judgment, and in righteousness. And the nations shall bless themselves in him, and in him shall they glory. For thus said Yahweh to the men of Judah and Jerusalem, break up your fallow ground, and sow not among thorns. Circumcise yourselves to Yahweh, and take away the foreskins of your heart, ye men of Judah, and inhabitants of Jerusalem. Lest my fury come forth like fire, and burn that none can quench it, because of the evil of your doings."
Okay, very good. So we see over here the prophet is saying to the people, circumcise yourselves to Yahweh. Is he saying to them for them to do something that they're not able to do yet because Yeshua didn't come, live, and die and raise from the dead and send back his Ruach HaKodesh back to us? No. He's not giving them a command. He's not prophesizing to these people in a way that's impossible for them to fulfill it. He said, do this lest my fury come forth like fire and burn that none can. He's going to bring some unquenchable fire on the people because they're not able to do something that he said for them to do. That's not what's going on here. He wants for these people to get rid of the things, the lusts and desires that's inside of them, and to cause them to, make a separation in themselves from those things which aren't pleasing to the Most High. Right? Mm-hmm. Break up your fallow ground and sow not among thorns. He's talking about something that you can physically do. Don't put yourself in a place where you're not going to be able to grow and flourish in the ways of righteousness, but plant yourself in a place that is fallow ground, that's broken up, that's ready to receive this holy seed so that it can grow. Right? The good seed was the one that feared the Most High. That's the one that grew into a plant. Right? When we looked at it from the scripture earlier. Mm-hmm. And so again, we look at this, we can think about the idea of circumcising your heart as being, thinking about it from a spiritual perspective, but it's a physical thing first. First, it's a physical thing. First, you have to physically remove this or that from your situation. First, you have to physically even just decide for there to even be a change in your situation. First, you have to just physically just turn away from that sin, that thing that is contrary to the will of the Most High. Mm-hmm. He said, if thou wilt return, O Israel, return unto me then. If you're going to return already, he said. But first you got to put away that abomination from out of my sight. That right there is circumcising your heart. Put that abomination out of my sight. Okay, so there's obviously a physical part to all this, right? There's a physical thing that must be done, right? It's a physical thing that has to be taken care of, right? We can't just always just think about the spiritual only part, right? There's a physical part, right? You got to physically not be around certain things, right? You got to physically not put yourself in certain situations which is going to cause you to fall and to stumble, right? You have to physically put a fence around those things which the Most High will have for you to be doing so that you don't cross it, right? But we typically are not circumcising ourselves. Circumcision is something that's done to you. Okay, when we think about this thing that's called circumcision, when we think about, what it physically is, it's not something that you do to yourself. Right? It's something that is done to you. So you have to put yourself in a position to be circumcised. Acts chapter 7. Acts chapter 7, 51. What does that say?
Ye, stiff-necked and uncircumcised, and in heart and ears, ye do always resist the Holy Spirit, as your fathers did, so do ye.
Okay, so we think about the idea of being uncircumcised, right? There's a component of of rebellion involved in this, right? And the idea of stiff-neckedness and uncircumcised in the heart and ear. The ears being uncircumcised. What? How do you circumcise an ear? Okay, if I cut the lobe of my ear, the hole's still there, where there's still stuff able to get in it, right? Don't have nothing to do with necessarily a cutting of the ear, but more so what you allow to penetrate that particular opening, right? Which we could, point back to influence. Okay, and so when we think about the idea of stiff-neckedness, uncircumcised heart, a heart that has not submitted itself to the Most High and His will and His ways, and an ear that's not hasn't put itself in the way of obedience to the words of the Most High, right? It says those people, they resist the Ruach as your fathers did, so do you. And so when we think about the idea of a circumcision of the heart, there's an obedience. There's an obedience component to all of this. Right, part of this whole thing that is a necessary component to the circumcision of the heart is obedience to the will of the Most High. Right, which is against something that has to be done so that you're able to move forward in the doing. Is to even get to the place of deciding and understanding that there's a change in the way that I need to be doing. Let's see here. To put it in perspective, heart disease is #1 killer, both physically and spiritually. Well, yes, our heart is wicked. Right? And unless we take the necessary precautions, this thing is going to stop eating. Right? From a physical standpoint, right? From a spiritual standpoint, we need to be reconnected to the source so that we're able to even just have life. But when we think about what we see over here in this verse over here in Acts, a way that we deal with, this heart disease is to not resist the Ruach, which is actually the thing that works on our cold, wicked, dead heart. Ezekiel 36.
Then will I sprinkle clean water upon you, and ye shall be clean. From all your filthiness and from all your idols will I cleanse you. A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you an heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit within you, and cause you to walk in my statutes, and ye shall keep my judgments and do them.
Okay, very good. So when we think about what we know of as the new covenant in terms of what the Most High does for us with our spiritual heart transplant, this is something that goes on top of the physical aspect, right? Because we've already decided to make a change. We've already decided to go from darkness to light. We've already decided the Most High has a way for us to live and to be. But now, what we see over here is the empowerment for us to be able to follow through. Right? Because we can say what it is that we will want to be doing, but over here, the Most High makes provision for us to actually be transformed and changed on the inside so that we can be cleansed of all of our filthiness and so that we can be transformed and changed from this carnally minded existence to a brand new spiritually minded existence which ends in life and peace. And so when we think about this faith, we think about the idea of faith, right? We have to be open to being cut, right? We have to be open to being circumcised and ready to receive that circumcision, right? And so that would be the physical circumcision of the heart, right? To being open to being circumcised, to be ready to receive that circumcision, right? You have to be prepared. The ground has to be made fallow, has to be broken up and ready to receive the seed so that the seed of the Spirit can be placed in it and the seed can then grow. And so there's both the physical component and the spiritual component. We think about the idea of circumcision of the heart is not only the spiritual part, because there still has to be provisions that's made in our hearts, in our minds, so that our spirit is able to grow and transform inside of us. Ephesians.
This I say therefore, and testify in the Master, that ye henceforth walk not as other Gentiles walk, in the vanity of their mind, having the understanding darkened, being alienated from the life of Elohim through the ignorance that is in them, because of the blindness of their heart, who being past feeling have given themselves over unto lasciviousness, to work all uncleanness with greediness. But ye have not so learned Messiah, if so be that ye have heard them and have been taught by him, as the truth is in Yeshua. That ye put off concerning the former conversation the old man, which is corrupt according to the deceitful lusts, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and that ye put on the new man, which after Elohim is created in righteousness and true holiness.
Okay, so when we look at this is an example of two things going on. We have the spiritual component, the refreshing, the renewing component, the internal aspect, but we also have the physical part, right? When we're changing, when we're doing away with those physical deeds and things that we might do, and also we're doing away with those the motivations and the desires to even do those things, right? When we think about these things, these ways that are connected with the ways of the Gentiles, the ways of those which are disconnected from the Most High, there is a way that they do and be. There's things that they do, and then there's things that we do. Right? It talks about those people doing those things because of the blindness of their heart. Because of the blindness of their heart. Right? There was things that those people was doing that was separated, disconnected from the Most High, that they was doing because they had a particular heart condition. And so when we think about us as those that are following after Messiah, we have a different thing about us, and we have to actually put off those things, our former conversations, our former occupations, those things that are connected with the old man, right? Which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust, and be renewed in the spirit of our mind. When we think about the spirit of our mind, even that, your mind is this internal thing, this thing that's inside of you, but it's something that's separate from your spirit, right? You fill your mind with things that actually touch the physical realm. Things that touch the physical realm go into your mind. And then your spirit, which is internal, which doesn't touch the physical realm, touches the internal realm of your heart or your mind on the inside of you. When we talk about the idea of being renewed in the spirit of your mind, you're talking about this mixture now happening on the inside of you, of your thoughts, the things that are going on the inside of you. Thoughts, again, are things that are coming from outside of you, in this physical world. And these things are being renewed and remixed in, on the inside of you. So we see this mixture happening of this physical realm and the spiritual realm. Again, showing that this idea of a circumcision of the heart is something that is that has to physically happen and spiritually happen. And when we say physically happening, we're not talking about necessarily your flesh being cut, but your mind being cut. Right, your heart being cut, your passions, your thoughts and your desires being cut, things being removed from those things, right, inside of you, right, but not quite spiritual, but still inside of you, and then that mixture happening of that spirit, becoming now the motivating factor and force of your mind, right? And then that's adding that idea of this spiritual heart transplant, right? So we talk about putting on this new man. This is this all-encompassing thing, which is both physical and spiritual. It's not only just spiritual, because when we talk about the idea of righteousness and true holiness, again, these things look like something, right? It's not just, righteousness is not invisible, right? Set apartness is not this thing that is invisible. It's something that has a look about it. And so again, we think about the idea of the circumcision of the heart. This is both physical and spiritual situation over here. All right, so let's look over at a few things that we see over in the next chapter, chapter 11. Let's look at here. let's look at verse 18.
Therefore shall ye lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes.
Okay, very good. So even when we look at this verse over here, Deuteronomy 11 and 18, it kind of has kind of a dual aspect, two things going on, where it's talking about something that's internal, your heart, and then your soul, and then something that's external, that's talking about your hand and your forehead, between your eyes. And so even over here, it's talking about this thing that's both physical and spiritual, something that's external and internal. And so when we go all the way back to chapter 10, where it talked about the carving of the law on the commandments, we see that external thing. That's what that was. And then as it moves forward and start talking about the circumcision of the heart, we can see how it begins to think about things internally. And then now we see the full mixture of the internal and the external. We're talking about again to lay up these words in your heart and in your soul. And so when we think about the circumcision of the heart, we think about this cutting that has to happen, in the heart. And then what's Jeremiah 17 and 9 say right there?
Circumcision of the heart. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it?
Okay, so when we think about the heart, the internal part of you, it needs to be cut, right? Because it's desperately wicked, right? So something's got to change on the inside of you. So when we talk about, again, the circumcision of the heart, there has to be a change. There has to be things that are removed, right? The things that you naturally want to be doing, you can't be doing those things. The things that you naturally want to do. And so when we think about what the law does for us, it provides for us a standard, a way of living, things, ways that we should be thinking about things that we wouldn't naturally, think about. Right? If somebody, acts a certain way, sometimes, our heart tells us that we need to, deliver up to them the same thing that they delivering up to us, like in your heart. But a lot of times that's pride on the inside of you.
Yeah.
And so the Most High wants for us to be able to cut away pride, to cut away these things that are self-serving, to cut away these things that are deceitful, that's on the inside of us, that's naturally wicked on the inside of us. So again, let's look at verse 18 over there. Read that one more time there.
Therefore shall ye lay up these words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes.
Okay, so even though when we think about the idea of carving into this stone, that's one thing that's going on with the carving and the graving into the stone. When we think about the idea of your heart and your soul, this thing that's going on the inside of you, and you're laying up words in your heart and soul. It's not the same word as far as lay up or carving, but the thing that's happening is the same. You're taking these words and you're putting them in your heart. You're putting them up in the inside of you, right? And so there's this thing that's happening. This is both physical and spiritual, right? You're preparing your heart and your soul for a internal renewal by doing things, by having a particular thought about, you know, what your motivation is going to be. And, you know, our motivation is going to be, of course, the will of the Most High. And so it was interesting that when we look at chapter, you know, putting chapter 10 along with chapter 11, when we look at chapter 10, where it's dealing with the idea of these laws being carved into stone, and then chapter 11, where it begins to deal with this idea of internalizing these things and causing for just something to go on inside of your heart, right inside of your soul, inside of your being. We're able to see that this is a physical and a spiritual thing simultaneously. All right, so let's look at 1 Thessalonians 5:23.
It says, "This was Paul's desire for those in Thessalonica, and the very Elohim of peace sanctify you wholly. And I pray, Elohim, your whole spirit and soul and body be preserved blameless unto the coming of our Master Yeshua Messiah."
Okay, so when we look over here and we see Paul's prayer for these people over here, he's not just only wanting for something to happen on the inside of these people. He's wanting for something to happen on the inside, on the very depths of the people and their whole spirit. As far down deep as it could get. You know, moving closer out towards the outside in the soul, and then all the way outside into the body, right? And so that he said to be preserved blameless unto the coming of our Master Yeshua Messiah. So we're talking about the idea of being preserved blameless. That's including all three of those parts: the spirit, the soul, and the body. On the inside, in the middle, and on the outside. The whole thing. We can't sit around and have a bunch of spiritual holy thoughts and be perverse in our body. Right? We need to be sanctified holy. Right? And that's not like with a bunch of holes in us, but completely. Right? We need to be sanctified completely. Right? And so when we look at this is what it is that Paul's talking about. It's interesting when we look at what we've been looking at in Deuteronomy in terms of chapter 10 and 11, where Moses is talking about this idea of circumcising the heart, that the circumcision of the heart is actually dealing with this idea of being preserved blameless, being sanctified holy, because it's dealing with, you know, our insides and, you know, what's going on the outside. Right? It deals with what's going on inside of our hearts and our desires to do or to not do a thing, and then actually the manifestation of those desires. Right? We could never just only think about these things just from one perspective, because we're a whole human being. And we have all of these things, you know, going for us. We can't just do a bunch of things. And because we're able to associate these things that we do with the Most High and think that is enough. Right? And we can't just even internalize a whole bunch of things that are associated with the Most High and never have any manifestation, because that's the same as being a hearer. If you're a hearer and not a doer, you know, you're just allowing for things to get inside of you. You're only allowing for goodness and thoughts of goodness and the idea of goodness to be inside of you and be internalized inside of you, but it's never manifesting itself, right? So it's never coming to its full potential, right? The full potential is never being realized. As an electrician, we talk about potential. There's potential at the light switch, and it's over there. But the light switch got to be turned on so that potential that's at the light switch can be realized in the light. And so in the dark room with the potential stopped at the light switch, the light ain't doing nothing until that potential becomes realized. And so if we just talking about being made, having for our spirit to be sanctified only, that's just, potential
It's a theory.
at the light switch. It's just
Just a
theoretical.
theory. Like if you don't take that copper and connect it to the switch, it took effort from the line and the source. It took effort to connect that. Then you gotta, like you said, it's effort to turn it on. It isn't. You don't wait for it to turn on.
Yeah.
It's the books. The book's a blueprint. Live it. You gotta live it.
Yeah.
It's an action book. Like you read these precepts it talks about. And the precept break down what an instruction. It's instruction. So you can see who's living it. I can see who believe in the most how they living, walking, talking, doing whatever. I can tell your level of faith.
Yeah. Yeah, in the walk. Right? We talked about that at the beginning. The fear, the love, and the walk. Right? Your life. The life that you live. Right? And so again, we talk about the circumcision of the heart. Yes, there's a spiritual component, but there's also the physical component where we have to deal with, when we look at John. I don't have this in my notes, but when we think about, can you look at John? John 14. Hold on, anything in my name? Oh, 14 and 26.
26. Okay. It says, but the Comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, whom the Father will send in my name, he shall teach you all things and bring all things to your remembrance, whatsoever I have said unto you.
Okay, very good. So when we think about the work of the Ruach HaKodesh, the Spirit is only going to bring about that which has already been planted on the inside of you. If wasn't nothing ever planted on the inside of you, then there's nothing for the Spirit to bring out. He said, the Comforter, which is the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you all things and bring all things to your remembrance. How you going to remember something that you never got put in there in the first place? There's a whole lot of spiritual people out here who got so much Ruach HaKodesh and don't got nothing planted inside of them. Nobody didn't never put nothing inside of them for the Most High to bring out. And so when we think about the work of what the Spirit does in us, the Spirit don't manifest something from nothing. The Spirit manifests something from what was already placed on the inside of you. when we physically circumcise our heart physically, when we receive the circumcision of our heart spiritually, that which was cut and removed and replaced from a physical standpoint can be used from a spiritual standpoint. When I put into me through looking at and reading and studying and understanding what the Most High's word actually says, now with that spiritual heart transplant, the Ruach HaKodesh is able to bring back to my remembrance the things that was physically put into my heart. It's not going to just bring out nothing out of thin air. Right?
Because also, too, like, when you make yourself, when you get rid of that stony flesh, and you become that flesh, more fleshy flesh you can receive, you can be taken places. Like, when you got that ego, you can. That's why that circumcision is important. I want to give a quick example. Like, when you operate in the spirit, see, the Most High, you just don't, even prayer, when people just pray for things and there's no action behind it, that prayer can't, you're not giving the Most High nothing to work with if you're not putting action behind the prayer. Like, for instance, my wife, she had a little issue with her blood pressure or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, we'll pray. She's like, I need some help or something. I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll figure it out. Before I could even really research it, I put a little prayer in, I always ask the Most High to direct me. I don't know if y'all know about Minister of Wellness. He's on YouTube. He's a brute, and his whole thing is wellness, like what to do, this and that. I get an email notification on my phone. The headline is how to lower your blood pressure. Garlic. You open it up, it tells you right there. Told her to do it. Next day, her blood pressure down. So it's like, but it's act like you gotta be ready, receptive, and for it to come in and to be looking for it,
Yeah. And so there's always going to be action involved in it. I mean, we're human beings.
Yeah.
We're physical, and we're enlivened. We're restored internally, spiritually, but we're physical beings. So the way in which we move and be is from a physical standpoint. He'll do and work miracles, but he does those in a physical way. Like what you just described. If I have a particular thing that I'm going through, and the next thing I know, an answer drops out of the sky.
And you gotta be looking for it, because here's the thing: the seed was planted for me to want to be more healthy anyway. So I'm looking into those things. I'm surrounding myself by things or influences that are healthy. So like, I was set up, because how would I be subscribed to him and be ready to receive that type of message if I wasn't, putting myself in position to live rightly or listen to the Most High and set my life up to have the answers when I need them. Mm-hmm. For him to be like, oh, okay, you already on this, but I'm gonna send you the boom. It's on his spirit. Somebody probably, and it's weird too. A lot of things, like you think you going through this only thing, and it's like you might hop on the book or you might see a YouTube video, people pop up. It's like, you ain't that unique that you ain't the only one going through stuff. Mm-hmm. So or similar things. So it's like to tap into, because the spirit works through people. Yeah. So you can get your healing through somebody. You might be looking at something that I needed to know, and vice versa. And tapping in, which takes action, you can get what you need.
So I was going to say, there used to be this Gatorade commercial. I think the slogan was, "What's in you, or is it in you?" Right? And it was all about, having Gatorade inside your body so you can perform at this ultimate level as an athlete.
I remember those.
Right? Yeah.
Because they would drink it and it was almost like the color of
Yeah.
the Gatorade would be in their sweat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how it is. Like, it's like you got to tap what's in.
Yeah.
What's within you. And so it's like what you put in you, is what you're going to get out. And that's why we have to be devouring this word.
Yeah.
We have to be, listening to the Holy Spirit that's within us and walking in the Spirit.
Because it'll tell you where it tells you where to look.
Right.
Like if you in the world and all these influences, they having you look all these places you shouldn't be looking. But in the Spirit, it'll have you look where you need to.
And one of the problems that people have that, is that, you might think that you're hearing from the Most High. I'm just going to say you might think that you're hearing from the Most High.
Yeah.
But if you only dealing with circumcision of the heart spiritually, and there was never no circumcision of the heart physically, you don't know what it is that the Most High talks about.
Right.
So that thing that's inside of you could be saying, you need to go next door and be with your neighbor's wife. And be like, the Most High told me to go be with my neighbor's wife.
Yeah.
But you don't know that the Most High don't like for you to be with your neighbor's wife.
Right.
And he says it in his word, but you don't be in the word to know what he says.
Right.
You just hear him voices and putting it on the Most High. And so again, we think about what Yeshua said that the Ruach was going to do. It was going to bring something that was already placed inside of you back to your remembrance. And so we have to be able to think about these things from a physical and from a spiritual standpoint. When we think about what it talked about in Deuteronomy chapter 11, we see all these physical blessings. They're going to go in and possess the land. It's going to rain in the season, when it's early and when it's late. There's going to be grass for the cattle. And there's going to be new wine. There's going to be all these things that it talks about from a physical standpoint. But we also have to think about it from a spiritual standpoint, and those things have to be combined. They work in tandem with each other, right? They go with each other, right? And so when you think about this idea of to circumcise your hearts, we have to know that part of the circumcision of your heart is getting, even in your mind ready to receive the word. And then once you got your mind even ready to receive it, then you got to actually feed your mind the word. You got to literally eat it, like how it talks about in, what Yeshua said, that we don't live from bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of the Most High. Like you literally have to eat this word the way that you eat regular physical food.
And eat it with humility too. Like that's another big thing. Yeah.
Right. And so when we think about the idea of like you say, eating it with humility, that's all dealing with the idea of allowing the character of the Most High to kind of be manifest inside of you. I'm eating His word. I'm eating His words. I'm devouring the words that He's provided for me, so that I'm able to understand Him better and serve Him better. So that I'm able to fear Him. So I'm able to serve Him. So I'm able to love Him. So I'm able to walk in His ways. So I'm able to guard and keep His ways. Circumcision of the heart is something that's all encompassing. It's something that deals with, how I prepare for the Most High and how I allow for the Most High to be manifest in me and through me. And so I thought it was interesting when we looked at these two chapters where, the one chapter begins with the idea of the laws written on tablets of stone, as opposed to what we see over in the 11th chapter when it deals with binding these things in your heart and in your soul. How do you even bind the laws in your soul? By taking this book and opening it up and looking at what it says.
Yep.
That's how you bind it to your soul and to your heart. It's not going to magically be bound to your heart. You're not going to say, I love Yeshua and I believe what he did for me and I want him to be my master. That's not going to bind his words to your heart. The only thing that's going to bind his words to your heart is by you actually taking the words and physically putting them there, by allowing them to enter into your eyeballs and into your brain, which is your mind, which kind of is your heart when you think about it from a biblical standpoint. And so we talk about circumcision of the heart. There's two components. There's two components to this thing. The fact that the Spirit is going to come and change your heart and cause your heart to be pliable, and it's going to cause you to do the things that are contained in his law. And again, if the Spirit's leading me and guiding me to do things, I have to be able to weigh what I know of as his character to know that it's even the Most High saying to do it.
Mm-hmm.
What do we have here? Hebrews 4:12 further explains the circumcision. Right. Okay. Let's look at that. Let's look at this here. What's Hebrews 4:12 even say? Hebrews 4:12. What's that say?
For the word of Elohim is living and working and sharper than any two-edged sword, cutting through even to the dividing of being and spirit, and of joints and marrow, and able to judge the thoughts and intentions of the heart.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think, and this is talking about the word of Elohim. This thing is alive and it's working. And this thing cuts.
Yeah.
Right? Just like we talk about circumcision. Again, we talk about the spiritual circumcision of the heart and, in tandem with the physical one. As we're reading these physical words and they enter into our physical minds, when they're matched and coupled with that Ruach HaKodesh, that's when this whole cutting begins.
Yep.
When you sit up here and find a particular truth in the scriptures where it just stops your whole everything in its tracks. When you see the wisdom and knowledge and understanding that we find inside of this word, that really is alive and is working.
Yep.
It's a living word.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a thing that we could be going through in this physical realm that we're not able to find an answer to or a way through
Any situation.
It's
really
in this
real.
word.
I used to sit and think like, the Bible got everything. It can't be with everything. No, it can. You just ain't. Spirit ain't open you up to the book enough. Like this book is big.
Yeah.
It's almost too. It has so much because it reiterates on in many points in different places.
You're never done. You're never done with this.
You're not. That's facts. It's a lifelong walk of perfecting the walk.
Yeah. And it's interesting that this verse, and it talks about cutting. and we're thinking about the idea of circumcision, which is cutting.
Mm-hmm.
Cutting away. That's the word cuts away at things inside of you.
Yep.
You read about the character of the Most High that we're supposed to be exhibiting and manifesting, and you see in His Word, oh, wait a second, Most High don't operate like this. This is me and my carnal mind working. The Word helps you to cut certain parts of you away, certain parts of your heart.
Yeah.
When you think about the spiritual heart transplant, it's something that's, it's kind of different from a circumcision, because a circumcision is one and done.
Yeah.
It's an event that happens. It happens and it's over.
Yeah.
But for us, in this transformative kind of phase in our situation, where we're continually, something that I've thought the Most High was leading me to do 10 years ago, I've progressed in my thoughts and ideas about things from that, based on understanding His words better.
Right.
As we grow, as we live and learn and grow, when you first find out how to do a thing, there may be a way that you learn how to do a thing that works. But as you continue to do the thing that you've learned to do, you find that there's better ways to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as if you're kind of just teetering, but you're making things be more efficient.
That's that. Remember that scripture in Ecclesiastes where it talk about wisdom when it first walk with you crooked.
Yes.
And then it starts to straighten your ways
Yes.
out, because you continue down there, and as you get it, because you're going to go back and forth like you tight hallway getting hit into the walls, but then you start getting it, because it'll start, the wisdom will be like, oh, okay, because you're walking it to experience it, to know how to adjust and what the scriptures is talking about. Because it's like you really can't read this thing and then just, I read it, I know it, and act like you live in it.
Yeah.
It's a constant thing. And you supposed to be getting better each day. That means it's a progressive walk.
Yeah. And when you think about that verse over there in Ecclesiastes, where it talks about that, in wisdom, that's how the Spirit even works with you, right? It's going to take you down these crooked paths. It's going to take you down these hard paths, these ways, these uncharted areas that you've never been before, to see if you're able to even be worthy, of the task.
Yeah.
And some people get lost on those crooked paths. When we think about the wilderness experience, the wilderness experience was a crooked path. And, the children of Israel basically recycled themselves almost fully over there, in terms of the amount of people that came out, the amount of people that died, and the amount of people that got into the land. It was they recycled themselves. A whole generation died off. They went through the crooked paths until the Spirit wisdom was able to trust the ones that who was His people. And so when we think about what the Word does for us, the Word is taking you through these crooked paths, these ways that you thought was what you were supposed to be doing, until you find out, looking in this Word, that, hold on, wait a second, He don't want me to be doing this. And by the way, this way it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for me to go this way that He's wanting for me to go.
Mm-hmm.
But that Ruach HaKodesh strengthens you to go and do these things that are seemingly uncomfortable. And so, again, we talk about the circumcision of the heart. It's physical and it's spiritual, right? What does it say here? It doesn't even say judging actions, but judging thoughts and intentions which occur before the actions. Yeah,
Exactly.
we look at this Hebrews. Yeah, this word catches you. Again, that's even getting back to the idea of keeping and guarding and putting the hedge around. Before we even get to the place of manifesting, we're able to keep the commandments. We're able to guard these commandments by having this word judge our thoughts and our intentions.
Facts. You know what I always do? Well, I'm about to say it my early. No, I do it today. I'd be like, situation pop up. Of course, the easy situation. Okay, that's easy going, but one that like, whether you've been offended or it's an offense committed against you or whatever, a moment you can retaliate or be some kind of way.
Yeah.
I just think, what would the Most High want me to do?
Yeah.
That statement by itself makes it easy. Because then as I go through the scriptures of whatever knowledge I got, if I come across it, I just do that and I don't think about it because I don't have no ego behind it. It's not me. It's what I feel the Most High according to my knowledge, whatever wisdom I got. Just use that and go on with life. No emotions or nothing. You know what I'm saying? that works.
Read 168.
Psalms 119 and 168.
165, my fault.
165. Great peace. You ready? Okay. 165. Great peace have they which love thy law, and nothing shall offend them.
When we think about what it is that this word does on the inside of us, it gives us peace. Yeshua said that we get from him a peace that passes all understanding. A peace that don't even make sense. It don't make physical sense in relation to how we should probably act from a worldly standpoint.
Oh, absolutely.
But this thing, he said, get great peace have they which love thy law, and nothing shall offend them.
That's big time.
When we think about the things that the word does inside of us, when we think about what the circumcision of our hearts is, what it actually, practically does inside of us, it causes us to be able to move in the way that the Most High will have for us to be moving, manifesting His character, and not allowing for these little whatever things to happen around us to cause for us to waver from the path that He's placed us on. When we're able to do those things that He said in terms of fearing Him and loving Him and walking in His ways and serving Him, when we're able to do all these things through having His word be planted on the inside of us, the result of all of that is us being able to manifest His character on this earth and be representatives of the Most High in this world. And the closer we get to Him and His character, the less we care about these little petty things that could potentially happen and hurt our little baby egos.
Yeah. But then the further you go down that, the more you use it and the better you get at it, then you're having mercy on that person, because it's like they don't know. I can see why Yeshua, he said, forgive them, they know not what they do, because they don't know what spirit they in. The lack of information they got, they're pitiful. So it's like, how could you be offended by
Exactly.
something that is just so
Like being
pitiful.
offended by like a child.
Yeah, because they don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, when you say it like that, I mean, it's really kind of just making it plain. When you think about somebody who is not connected to the Most High, anything that they might do is what they're supposed to do because they're not connected to the source of life.
The Father,
And
they don't have the
anything
Father.
that they would be doing is exactly the way they're supposed to be behaving.
Right.
And so you shouldn't expect anything
Exactly.
other than that from that person.
Exactly.
And so, you know, when you think about these things, again, the way that the Most High will have for you to be thinking about things, it helps you through, you know, this life. And so, you know, I just thought, you know, looking at these 2 chapters here, you know, would be something that would be, you know, helpful in terms of, you know, trying to be able to stay grounded in things and not, you know, kind of be too spiritual, but understand that we have to incorporate this very important physical aspect, you know, putting these actual physical words, law is spiritual, right? But it's literal words that go into your mind and transform inside of you, you know, from a spiritual perspective. The source of them is spiritual, but it's a physical process that you must literally do by, you know, putting that thing inside of you, which is actually cutting, you know, things off of you. And it's also adding things to you as well.
Yeah.
And so, you know, this is just something that, you know, I thought was important in regards to these, you know, this particular Torah portion.
Real quick, but there's also to say that when you do that, when you read that and you use it, it's a mentality. It's a mentality. You know, people are like, what mentality do you live by? Your mentality, like, your morals is connected to it. Like, it does all of that.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It does, yeah. It does a lot, and like,
Yeah.
people should be able to see it on you.
Yeah.
And because it's not your mentality. You know, you look at the world and they like, I live by this, or whatever their profession is what they live by. My mentality, this. No, this is your baseline. Your profession, or, you know, that comes after that. But they base their life around these different things, that whatever they find success in or whatever. And it's like, this is baseline, and then when people look at you and they know it too, they can see it on you.
Mm-hmm.
We both walking in it. We both,
Not talking in it.
yeah,
Not talking
not debating in it.
Walking in it.
Yeah.
Cause I can, yeah, yep,
Yeah. Yes. And so, you know, just this is where we're at. Dude. This is our life. This is not what we profess only, right? This is what we do. This is our walk. This is our life, right? This is we are, you know, as Israel, we have to be a manifestation of the Creator and Sustainer of all things, who is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And we have to, you know, allow for His Word to not only get in us, but to live and be manifest through us, so that His kingdom, you know, can be manifest in this earth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so all that being said, anybody have any last thoughts or questions or comments? All right, so we want to remind everybody, go ahead and like this video, share it, Make sure you subscribe. Encourage other people to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that notification button so that when all of our new videos come out, that you don't miss out on anything. Again, we got the kids Purim thing on Wednesday at 7 o'clock. You can go to the Director Cod Facebook page and see the flyer, or email us at directorcod.oneway@gmail.com to get that information for the Zoom call. And so, all that being said, we'll say for now, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
And
Shalom.
God willing, we'll be back on next week with some more.